Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and a gigantic portion of Quindy with just a light dusting of Justin and John. How are you all today? And we're so happy for that gigantic portion of Quindy. It keeps us going. It keeps us linked. Crows, don't do that to yourself. Seriously. Media, man. I don't consume it. I am woefully and happily completely not up on the current day. Not completely. I do consume some small amounts of media, but yeah. That's not my gig, but if you enjoy it, go for it. Yes. Good morning, all. It is a good morning. Uh-oh, wrong button. There's our button. Yay. Yeah, I don't live under a rock, but I very selectively consume media. I'm very selective about it. And most of the time when there's something big going on in the general world that I need to know, David will tell me, because he does, he reads his newses every day. I keep up on some stuff. I keep up on financial stuff. But I tend to, and I hate reality TV. Like, the only reality TV shows I can watch are, like, The Great British Baking Show, where everybody's really supportive of each other, and the only drama is when somebody's quiche burns, Like, that's my speed of reality TV. Otherwise, I cannot watch it. It infuriates me and makes me sad at the same time. So, yeah, not my gig, but I know a lot of people love it, so. Yeah, Inara, right. I got my own crap to worry about. I don't need to worry about everybody else's drama. Oh my god, yes. All that. 100% that. Yeah, some people really like the whole reality thing. Some people... It's cool. Like, everything is cool here. No judge. No judge, just not my shtick. But if it's your popcorn, like if it's like, you just fire up the microwave popcorn and you just go, like, yeah, enjoy what you enjoy. I mean, I'm the freak who's like addicted to esports, so like I judge no one. You separate me from my Overwatch League, and we're gonna have some words. Yeah, I like the competitive baking shows. Like, those are the cool things for me. Competitive food competitions. It's the only reality TV I'm interested in. Cuz tasty food or chocolate or baked goods and awesome, like, techniques and artistic cool stuff. Yeah, but we all have our things that we are, like, really addicted to, and so, like, I can't really judge anybody else, like, because I like to watch wacky stuff on the interwebs. So, oh, is it MasterChef Canada is amazing? Is it, like, current, or is it an older series, Crows? And where can we look that up? Because I hadn't heard the Canadian one was really good. I had heard the Australian one was amazing, but I can't find it anywhere. I can't watch it. Let's see. So we're going to work on a couple of things today. We're going to highlight our blue and show you just how fool-worthy I was to start with the darkest, deepest blue I could find, because we're going to show you how terrible it is to try to highlight this. And then we are also going to be working on some freehand back here. Binging on YouTube. Oh, Mary Berry has a cooking show? Cool. All right, I need to stop and take some notes here. Because, David and I are always looking for stuff to watch in the evening together. And a lot of the time, that's Overwatch League these days. But let's see here. So we have Mary Berry Cooking. What's the Mary Berry Cooking show called? Or should I just look up Mary Berry and it'll come up? I'll look it up. I'll Google it. I don't need you to tell me if you don't want. And MasterChef Canada on YouTube. All right. I will look that up. Thanks for the reference, guys. Thank you, Twisted Oma, and thank you, Crows. Those sound like they are right up my alley. I do love, what is her name who replaced Mary Berry on British Baking Show? Pearl? No. Yes. But I like her a lot. Mary Berry, it's on PBS? Okay. PBS. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, really? Oh, wow. Quindy with the win. I don't know if I looked into them because they were kind of when I was trying to find it, I found a site that did have it, but it seemed kind of sus. So let's see. MasterChef Aussie. All right, now I have a whole bunch of things to look into. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, nice, Twisted Oma. That's great. Hey, Tvaki. How's it going? Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, everybody, for the cooking show, like, accolades. Now I have a whole bunch of stuff to look up, and then I can, like, you know, tell David that we need to start watching these. All right, so we're going to do 4 drops of this Ultramarine Shadow, which I'm not going to have to... At this rate, with going through it with the dragon and all that, I'm probably going to need a new bottle of Ultramarine Shadow. Let's back up a little bit. So, I need to have my regular Ultramarine Shadow out because it is, I'm going to need it. I'm going to need its support. I cannot state this strongly enough. Because when I start trying to highlight with a blue with white in it over the top of this, it will be crazy. And I will tear my hair out and be very unhappy because blues suck that way. This is why when you base coat with a blue, you should do what I didn't do. And you should always add a little bit of white to that blue. Like if it's a really deep dark blue. Always add, like Ritterlich, Ultramarine Shadow, Clear Blue, all those. All those always add a little bit of white. You might even want to Brilliant Blue. Yeah, see, MasterChef Australia, I've just heard so many good things about. And it's just like the kind of thing I would love. So, thanks, Quindy, and I will totally go chasing around to see about that. Wow, this mixing brush is starting to really, really die. It did not live long. All right. So let's get this thinned down and that thinned down, although I'm probably going to need even more than that. So, all right, what happens when you highlight blue? When you've got a beautiful, deep, dark blue, this is the natural state of blue pigment. It's gorgeous and it is transparent, right? It's really, really vibrant and transparent. So, you know, you can see just with a little water, you can really see through it. And that's part of what gives it its beautiful, deep color. But when you mix a highlight for this or go to highlight over it with another blue that's lighter, you are then dealing with a blue that has had white added to it in some form. And the problem with this is that white is opaque. White is as opaque as blue is transparent. And so because it's opaque, it's going to go over the top of this transparent color and you're going to see brush strokes galore. Like, it is the hardest thing to blend. Blue, absolutely. Hardest color to blend, in my opinion. Absolutely excruciating. Specifically dark blues. If you start with something like dragon blue, then you're going to be a lot better. I'm probably going to end up having to do wet blending to get this to blend. And even then, we all know that wet blending doesn't like necessarily do a perfect blend. So if I want a really good blend, I'm going to have to really work at it. But yeah, so this is why it can be really painful to highlight like really deep greens, really deep, although green's a little easier because you can use yellow instead of white. And that will, yellow's still a little bit more opaque, but it is really, in general, it's pretty see-through. So it works better because it doesn't resist going transparent. But white resists. And so, yeah, when you're doing this, that's why when you base coat your blue, if you want to do this, I recommend starting with a lighter blue and just putting a heavy wash of this, the deep, deep blue over the top of it. So I'm going to grab my thin brush, skinny brush, and we're going to try to highlight this a little bit. But yeah, this is the problem with blue. So I'm going to just use this. It's mixed about 1-to-1 at this point, just a little bit less. It's about 5-to-4 paint to water at this point. And I'm going to get, yeah, okay. I'm going to go across the grain. Technically, this should work mostly because I've thinned it so very much. Like, think about it. I've added 4 drops of water and I only added 1 drop of white. So this should, but it may not give me much of a highlight at all. Like, when you start and you're not really seeing it, there's this trade-off where your paint needs to be strong enough that it shows up, right? And this is the battle for a lot of people when they start layering. This is a battle that I started with. And it was that I was thinning my paint for layering, but I thinned it too much, so I couldn't really see results. The other thing that you can get if you thin your paint too much is actually chalky layering. So when you are doing skin tones, there we go. Let's see. All right, I'm trying to get, I can see a little bit of it, but not much. So there we go. So I've got to essentially look closely at this and decide if it's going to be way too thin and I'm going to have to add more. I can see it a little bit when I lay it down. And this is actually probably a good, you can kind of see it. You can see the brush mark there, right? Where I've done it. So even at this amount of thinning, I'm still not getting a smooth blend, I'm getting a smudge. So it's pretty, it can be pretty frustrating when you're doing this. Now, obviously, if anybody looking at it from a distance isn't going to necessarily see the smudge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up that highlight a little bit more. Now you can start to see it. And I'm gonna highlight the surface, and then I'm going to put a glaze of the original blue over it. And so that's what you can do. Yeah, you can really see that. It's totally not blending. Oh, is it, crows? I'll go over and look after stream. I'll put that on my note. Note of things. The things note. I probably have a notification in my email. I just haven't checked it. Because I'm totally in for that if they've got more tube paint. Alrighty. Good. Excellent. But Quindy is so good at giving us the, the actual, links to exactly what we're talking about. Alright, so I'm going to essentially go in and highlight all of this, then I'm going to put a glaze on it, then I'm going to see where I am. Now, just to remind you, we have a very distinct, but you can see how thin this one is, right? See how it's falling off the side here. And this is a 4-to-1 ultramarine shadow with white, 1 drop of white. And it's still proving very difficult. Now, one thing I'm going to say is I'm going to be putting freehand over this surface. So part of me doesn't really care a lot about a perfect blend. Because when you put freehand over a surface, any flaws in your blending tend to disappear. Because the freehand going over the top, well, essentially people will focus on the freehand. Anything else will fall into the background. And if your blending is not perfect, no one will notice. Because the freehand stuff will interrupt your backdrop. See how that, yeah. So you can see the difference between that and this, but you can also see that it's very linear. It doesn't blend very well. And I'm using only the tiniest bit of this paint on my brush too. Yeah, there you go, Shadow Spawn. Thanks. So yeah, I'll be in for that scale color chaos then, because I like those tube paints. You know what? I've got my camera up really high, so I'm gonna actually bring it down a little bit and do a refocus. 1 second, guys. There we go. So yeah, you can see how choppy this looks. Like, the problem with thinning your paint down a lot with some pigments is that you just will get a very irregular surface, and you need to build them up and build them up to get a more regular one. So the problem here is just that normally pure white can be thinned much more than this, but that's pure white on its own, and this is mixed with a different pigment. So I'm getting some artifacts. A little bit of graininess. Trying to bring up that area. But yeah, even with my best efforts, the blue will end up becoming kind of choppy. This isn't too bad. I do want this area to stay dark, so I don't want it to come up too much. But I need to highlight a little bit. So I'm just going to work on that. That area is catching the light because it's sticking out. There it is. I feel like it went a little bit much. So if I feel like I've gone a little bit too much, I can bring in my ultramarine shadow, knock it back down a little bit. And I could try to do kind of a side blend here. You can see like how this is not blending at all. So this is me really trying, and it's still difficult to blend. So yes, take my word for it. If you're going to use these really deep, beautiful dark blue colors, consider starting with a little bit of white in them first, and then working down into your shadow and then back up. So I put a little glaze there of the ultramarine on top, so you can see how that works. Colored it down just a little bit. But yeah, I could sit here and waste a lot of time doing this because it's just so difficult. So, but I won't because I'm going to do freehand. So I'm going to generally put a highlight on. I'm going to mix probably one more highlight because I want things to stay dark. And then we will move on. Today is an annoying day. We have ants, and so we have a pest guy coming to like gas the house, I think. They told me I'd have to be out of the house for 3 hours. So this is an even bigger thing. See the little brush strokes there? See those lines? That's even thinning this like 1-to-1. Like but you still see lines on the blending, and that is because you're putting an opaque color over a transparent color. That is entirely why. And so I can't get that to blend. Now what I can do is I can do the layering trick, come back with my ultramarine shadow from the other side and kind of try to fade this in by putting a little bit of that shadow color over the top from the opposite direction, kind of fuzzing over those little brush strokes and trying to get them to blend in, trying to convince them that they would like to blend. And that you can still see though, still see the barrier. So it's carpenter ants, Inara, so they can eat your house. Big black ones. So they're not as easy as the little guys. Apparently. That's what our pest control people told us. So I'm going to talk to the guy about it. I'm glad we don't have a dog yet, because that would make it more annoying. But yeah. Because they can be so destructive, I think you just want to bomb the heck out of... if you see them, you want to bomb the heck out of it. You want to nuke it from orbit because you want to be sure. But that means I'm going to be out of the house for a few hours this afternoon, which means I cannot work on my PDF for the Patreon, which is annoying because, yeah, I'm chugging right along. But $10 tier gets a PDF on how to paint albino animals this month that I need to paint a sample. And so I sadly, I was very, I was disorganized yesterday. Right? I wrote the PDF and then I realized I really wanted to paint an example. So sometimes that happens. At the Starbucks, probably. I have a Starbucks in walking distance, just 1 block away. So I'll probably go there and get some coffee. And if it's hot, I'll hang out in their AC for a while. And then I'll come back and hang out in on our patio. So it can be a fun afternoon. It's just I won't be able to actually work on the thing that I most need to work on, which is just a little bit annoying. But like I said, poor planning on my part. I didn't know I was going to want to paint for this PDF. Yeah, we pay for a professional pet service, or not pest service, because I want the chemical barrier around the house. And it's also kind of cool because we pay them and they make like every other month visits, and then any service is actually free. And they also take care of, there's a lot of like rodents in this area too. We haven't had a problem, but they'll take care of that. They take care of a lot of different stuff. So they seem pretty good. We have an older house. Our house was built in the 50s, so I definitely not like a modern impervious box. All right, so we've got a little bit of highlighting on there now. You can see it. I do need to pick up, you can see the edge between the blue and the black. You see it much better on camera, actually, than you do in person. So I actually want to come in and highlight that a little bit so that what I can see on camera is also visible in person. Sometimes the camera is really good at picking up light-dark differences when they're right next to each other. Which is kind of cool because then I can, show you guys stuff which in person would be hard to see, but on the camera is actually easier to see. So it's kind of a weird side effect of the camera having such good resolution. Using just stippling here to bring in that edge. Yeah, I don't have animal yet, so once we get the puppy, I imagine that my rodent sightings will become a lot less frequent. Oh, there's no insulation out here. Like, Shadow Raven, this is California. Actually, the worst, this is the South Bay. Like, for much of the year, it is 60 or 70 degrees. So insulation, we have insulated roof so that, the house doesn't get very hot during the day. And it retains heat decently in the winter. But the walls are not insulated. However, back in the 50s, these particular houses were made of redwood, which is pest resistant. So it's not like teak, but it is a little better than most woods. So it's got pluses and minuses. It's definitely its own beast out here. Like, very different from anywhere else that I've lived. But yeah, insulation, which I was kind of horrified at when I found out about this. But I guess it's just a thing. I wasn't used to living in this climate. This climate is just weird. So we've got radiant floor heating, and we've got no insulation on our walls, and we've got no air conditioning. It's very different from Texas, where everything is super insulated, hyper insulated, and your AC keeps you protected from the world killing you during the summer. Very, very different. Yeah, Kodiak. Yeah, old house syndrome, right? Yeah, I mean, you still can have a termite problem, but they check you. You just get a person in to check it. And our guys take care of termites too, so. Yeah, radiant heating. Yes, I do love that in the winter where the floor is toasty. Oh, it's so nice. I really love it. Like, it's so nice to get out of bed in the morning and have like the wood floor in the bedroom and the tile in the bathroom be toasty. Oh, it's so nice. I'm gonna get some walnut out here so that I can. Got a little bit too much blue. I want to reinforce the shadow here in the crack in the cape. Yeah. Yep. No AC. I mean, to be fair, here it's like I said, it's much of the year it's 60 or 70 and you just don't need it. Even at 80, it's so dry that it almost reminds me of Arizona, where when it's 80 degrees in Arizona, it feels cool almost, especially in the shade. Just mixing up my walnut here. Yeah, we're fine. I mean, like I said, our roof is insulated. And we don't really need wall insulation. Like, I don't see a reason for it at this point. Like, I feel like the guys who built our house, like, back in the 50s, like, were conversant with the climate. And, I mean, we've lived here now through the tail end of summer, because we moved in August. So we got the tail end of summer last year, all of fall, all of winter, and now we've had spring. So I feel like I kind of am familiar with the various seasons in the house. Probably, for most people, summer would be the hard one when it does get up to 80s and 90s. Because it does hit 90 here every once in a while. But I mean, when it's in the 80s here, our house stays around 75 degrees because of the ceiling insulation. We have a foam roof, essentially. There. That's much better. That's crisper. Just kind of crisping up things here. Making sure I've got some barriers. Yeah, I don't make terrain anymore. Like, I used to have a bunch of foam. But I just found that I actually prefer getting, like, cool buildings and stuff that other people have made. Because any stuff that I make kind of looks, like, crappy. And so, these days I have some nice terrain pieces. I kind of get like nice terrain pieces where I find them, so that I have this small accumulation of them, so that if we did like play war games over here, we would at least have something. But right now we don't have a group for 40K or anything, so. Oh no, Chibi. Yikes. Yep. See, David just went out on a trip, and so, like, I'm sure that the house will implode, while he's gone. But since I have previously, like, been a homeowner, where he hasn't, I actually have more of a clue about what we need and what things could happen and who to call, probably, than he does. He's always looking at me going, all right, who do we need to call for this? So that's kind of nice. I feel like I'm okay. I'll be okay. So I'm just sharpening up the edges here where I'm going to put a gold border there. I'm debating putting another border along the bottom of this, but I think I can highlight the blue enough at the edges here where it's overlapping, and I can shade this enough, I think, underneath to get enough of for the details to stand out, to not need the border. But you could absolutely do a gold border on the bottom part of this top cape as well to separate the two. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a turquoise in the tube paints. The current set of tube paints have a turquoise that's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful turquoise. So it looked like they were putting, It looks like they might be putting some of the tube paints into bottles. Like, I haven't gone and looked at the Kickstarter, so I don't know. Don't know what is going on. But, alright, so I think that looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. You can see the hard line I'm getting here, though. That's the problem that I'm talking about. Where you just have a really hard time blending into the shadows. So I kind of brought a half and half mix over. You see how I blended that in? So now it's looking a little better because I brought it in, but it's still like you can see my blending lines, which is not normally something that you can see with my painting. I am capable of smooth blending, and I like to do it. But it can be titchy. With blues, it's going to be really frustrating always. Always frustrating. So eventually you just go, all right. Oh, okay. Inks are in bottles, paints are in tubes. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Doop. Yeah, I will totally be pledging. I've been really hard on new miniatures, but I already know that I really like those scale color tube paints. I really like their finish and their body and their everything. So for me, that's a no-brainer. I can put aside a little money for that. I was super excited about it when the Scale 75 guys told me about it at Adepticon. I'm going to grab a bunch of this, bring in 4 brushfuls, 4 big brushfuls over here, and then put more white in it. Just like half a drop there, not even a full drop. I'm going to mix that up and I'll add a little more. I'll add the full drop, yeah. So how you add a half drop or a full drop? If you squeeze enough paint out of your bottle to see that it's almost going to drop off, like it's a kind of a full drop, kind of look at that, smoosh it back in, and then do like half of that, and then just touch that half to the, like, there you go. Touch that half to the side of your well palette, and you'll get a half drop, more or less. And really, that's it's close enough. You don't have to worry about it not being precise. There is really a point in painting where close is good enough. But I'm not going to waste pure white because that would be silly. In fact, I should set up some pure white because I need to set up some freehand symbols. So, yeah. I hate to say this, but self-control is trainable. It's a muscle. The more you exercise it, the better you get at it. I have found this to be absolutely true. And the key is to start with little things. Start with saying no to little things. And then work up to the things that you really, really, really care about. But for me, usually, at least with miniatures, it's I go and I look at all the beautiful models that I own, and then it totally wipes that new model off of my plate. Like, I'm just like, all right, I can say no. Like, I really, really was interested in that new Chimera Kickstarter, but then I went and looked at all my stuff that I still have to paint that's all beautiful, and I lost the urge to get a new model because I have so much already. So, some people I know are collectors, and that doesn't work for them, but somewhere there will be a mental hack for you. Like, you just need to figure it out. I firmly believe. I've hacked so much of my life at this point. I believe that there is a mental hack for everything. You just have to know you well enough. And honestly, if not looking at the Kickstarter is your hack, then yeah, do that. Feel virtuous. Resist. Yeah, Shadow Raven, that can be dangerous though, because then when you do get money, then you don't have that like built-in breaks. Like I lived some of my life like that, and it was not good. Like I had to really go through a lot to teach myself to be good with money because of that, I think. Partially because of that. Partially because of that, in America, when I was growing up, parents never talked to their kids about money and how to handle it. Your self-control filters have evolved over time. And now they're not filters, D. Clearman. Your self-control is feral. Okay, I want that meme. Somebody go out and build that meme where it's like the progression of self-control and it's like different animal. It's like the reverse of the human evolution where you've got, you know, your tiny little amoeba on up to human, except then it's like human down to this ferocious, like spiky creature that's like feral. Oh, Lord. That's the meme I want. Give me that meme. Somebody go out and do that. I love the idea of my self-control being feral. There are days where my self-control about peanut butter cups is definitely feral. Like I'm like, I do not need that peanut butter cup. And something inside of me goes, Rah! And then I eat it. Yeah, that's a problem, Shadow. That's what I ran into. I was just really terrible with money for a long time until I stabilized. I had to figure out, kind of figure it out for myself. But now I feel like I'm much better. I'm much better at enjoying the things I have, I think. And being happy about the things I have, and that has made a big difference. Although I am eyeballing a little garden fountain right now for out in our little courtyard. We have a beautiful patio that when the weather gets nice, we eat outside all the time. And I hang out there. I might hang out there today when the pest guy comes for a little bit. But I would really like a little fountain out there for the birds and the beasts. And so I found one that I like, and I'm eyeballing that along with the anti-algae and stuff that needs to go in it. But it's, it's a price tag, so I'm like kind of sitting on it for a while. There was a day I would have just impulse bought that and just gone with it. So I'm just adding a little bit of really pale blue now to the edges. Yes, that's the filter I have 2D Clearman. I need to be able to imagine myself really painting it. If I can look at that model and imagine myself really painting it and getting excited about it, then I'll buy it. Otherwise, no. So see with that little extra white highlight, it's actually a pale blue. I've been mixing. I did a little spot mix of these two colors just on my brush because I didn't want a pure white. I wanted a pale blue, but I just did a little edging. Just honestly, just an edge highlight with the side of my brush and see how that brings that out. So this comes back to the fact that even with dark colors, on a 28mm model, you do want to bring them up with highlights. You might be tempted to stop here, but it looks even better when you go to here. So remember, dark colors still have highlights. You just make them very small and very focused. And if you think you go a little too far, you can always bring your medium color back and kind of paint over them a little to dull them down or to blend them in a little better. You can absolutely do that. But that gives us a nice little pop. Yeah, that impulse buy is pretty impressive, Shadow Spawn. That's a good rationale, Grey Wolf. If you don't have the time to work with it, I wouldn't have bought the oil paints if I didn't have the time and the inclination to work with them right now. Again, just a tiny little higher highlight here at the edges. Yeah, we definitely are not in the RV category. If we had a big, like if our house was big and I had a big lot to put it and store it, then maybe we would someday try to save up for something like that. I don't know. David doesn't like road trips as much as I do, and even with my back, I'm just not as good on road trips these days either, so I'm not sure. Not sure if I would go RV. I've done one before traveling, and it was fun. So I'm just edging a little bit here, a little bit edge highlights. Yeah, yeah, it is good. Like, it is good, I think. I mean, some people might disagree with me on this because I always do say you should try different paint lines. Yes, absolutely. Um, but if you're focusing on technique and on getting better at techniques, I feel like it may help you um, to focus on one paint line because each paint line is going to act a little bit different, right? Each is going to have a slightly different consistency, slightly different, like, you know, like pigments in the paints or pigmentation level in the paints. You know, there's going to be differences. And so you probably do want, oh, I totally missed that last highlight there. Oops. I went straight to an end highlight and I hadn't done my middle highlight yet. This is paint fail. Paint fail 101. But yeah, so when you're trying to learn like technique and consistency, when you're trying to internalize like paint consistency, like to where you really understand it on a gut level, then you probably do want to do that with one line because once you understand how it should look and act and feel and look on your brush and look on your palette, then you can go to other paint lines pretty effortlessly. But if you try to transition to a different line and learn its foibles before you have that, then that can be frustrating. And we do not want any frustration. You want to enjoy our hobby. So really what it comes down to is assess what you're trying to do. And if you just want to play, like playing is a totally valid like thing to do as far as just messing around with the new paint line. But then if you start getting frustrated or you start like, you know, going, oh wait, this isn't working, and you start trying to like reverse engineer that, then it can set you back. So well, that's not because we have many shadow people. Yeah, if you're doing just little bits of driving, I could see that. I could see that with you with an RV because you can camp anywhere, right? But when I'm road tripping, I tend to do like 8-hour days. There we go. So we've got some lighter blue highlights coming up here. I'll probably have to knock this down. They're not as light in person, but I probably will want to knock that one down a bit. But I'm going to bring up a little bit more. I'm going to go back and forth. Now the thing is, once I start putting on, I'm going to put alchemical symbols all over this. Probably one to each like fold, like so two here, two here, two, and two. And so once I start putting those on, they're going to be lighter and they're going to make this blue look even darker. Remember, everything is relative. Colors change according to what is next to them. So once I start shifting the color by putting more things that are light next to it for comparison, it'll look a little different. It's already got some light color up here, and that is helping it to look dark, but even more so when I put something right on top of it. Yes. Yes, there is definitely a lot of paint in the world. Interestingly, I find that I still reach for Reaper paint for 28 mil, and I tend to reach for the scale color for big models. Not sure if that's just a mental thing or if there's a real reason for that. One of these days I'll analyze and see. A little bit there, and then we got to bring in that last little touch after I get this set here. Yeah, that makes sense. Usually when I'm road tripping, I'm actually trying to get somewhere. But if you're just like meandering around and exploring, then that would be totally, like, I guess many RV owners do that, right? Like they just do the explore the world kind of thing, and they go at their own pace, and they just find a cool place to hang out, and they camp out for a day or two or do whatever, and makes sense. So a little bit of highlight here. This is a little bright, so I may want to take it back down. And I'm mostly focusing on the parts that are already highlighted here. I don't need to highlight the bottom of this big fold, although I may want to bring it up just a little bit, because it is a pretty shallow fold. But I also want my blue to stay pretty dark, so I got to keep an eye on that. So again, it's pretty difficult to get all this stuff to play nice together, to get this blue to blend nicely. Yeah, that works. There, a little bit more touch up, and I feel like that's pretty good. It makes sense to me that this would be a little bit higher highlighted because it is on top of the other one, but then we have a little bit of highlight on the bottom. A little bit more highlight here. A little bit more. All right. A little bit too hard there. Let's grab some blue, blend that in. This is why I keep all these blue colors open, because if I go a little bit too far, I can bring that highlight back down. Yeah, I could see that. Mini painting would be a great hobby to RV with. There we are. So now we're looking more consistent. Okay, I do still need to bring up my highlights more on the pink back here. It is not quite as light as it is on the front. And some of these folds definitely need to get lighter. So I do want to do that before I throw a bunch of freehand on it. Yeah, all right, so let's do that. Let's see here. That means mixing up a fair amount of paint, but I have that technology, so let's do it. So I want to mix up the highlight color for this, and that involves mixing some orchid purple with some fire red and some pale flesh. Ooh, but my pale flesh may be hiding. No, there it is. Okay. I was going to say, I got out my pale flesh to talk about albino creatures because it's actually a very useful color. Let's see here. So I would need a 1-1-2 orchid, fire red, pale flesh. was a very small drop of red, so I'm going to equalize them. Sometimes when your drops aren't necessarily equal size, you have to kind of eyeball it. When I first squeezed out a little drop of red, I got a tiny drop, so I needed to add a little bit more. And pale flesh is what we're using to highlight this because it's a very pinky skin tone. Let's see how that looks. And then I may need to add more pale flesh to get to the highlight I want. So since we have added pale flesh and it has a lot of white in it, I'm going to add at least 2 drops of water, probably more like 3. I usually add at least 1 drop of water per drop of white or really light color. Yeah, this looks like about where I wanted to be. I'm going to test that by putting it up on my watercolor card to see what level I'm at. So this looks like we're about here. Grab a little bit of this. It's thinned, so I have to add it a little bit heavier. But it looks pretty much like a perfect match for this. Once I get enough coats on to make it as solid, it's a perfect match for this one, which is exactly the highlight I wanted, so perfect. So now I'm going to see if I need... The problem here is that I don't have my previous colors. So I may need to actually mix up a little bit of my red at least. So I have something to glaze with. This is why when you're trying to blend, it's very useful to have all your colors mixed up. You almost always want to go back to your dark if you want to glaze to bring your color back out. Like if you're putting on highlights and you get brush strokes like I did there, you usually want to have a little bit of the previous color around. Yeah, when we did our old RV trip, I actually sold all my old Games Workshop, mine and my husband's at the time, to fund that vacation. And I managed it. Because I thought I would like to do an RV to our annual dog show. So I found the money by liquidating old models we weren't using. Which just shows you how many old models we had. All right, so let's get here and put this in here, a little bit of highlight. And then I've got my previous dark pink color, so this is how it's coming out, these guys, which is essentially like these guys. So if I need to glaze, I can glaze with that darker color. No, it's not Void Blue. I almost never base coat with Void. Void is, Babel, you're going to want to watch the start of this VOD because I talk about why you shouldn't start where I did. Don't start with a dark, deep blue. I started with Ultramarine Shadow. Void Blue is in the same category. Do not start with this. Half of this stream has been about how horribly difficult it is to put highlights on that deep dark blue that don't just look like big blotches. Always add a bit of white to your starting color. If you start with Void, do like a 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 Void to white. Then it'll be much easier to get your highlights to blend in, and then you just go to your regular Void Blue for shadows. But if you want the whole rationale plus what the, examples, then go back and watch the start of the video, because that is kind of what this turned out to be somewhat about. That blue is murderous to highlight. Deep blues are murderous to highlight. Probably the hardest thing to highlight, in my opinion. And I give the reasons. So just a little bit of highlight up on the top of this. And honestly, with cloth, the other thing to bring up is that if I really wanted to, I could have just left those brush strokes on the blue if I wanted a texture. That would have been in place, but that wasn't my original plan for this, and so I did not decide to go there. Yeah, I totally get it. Just wanted to let you know you definitely want to... You do not want to do what I did. Unless you are going to set yourself up for headaches. Alright, so we've got some of that in. I'm just raising up my pink highlights before I go in and start doing freehand. Yeah, a lot of people catching the crud lately. And again, since I am planning to put freehand over this, if my blends are not perfect, I'm probably going to get a bye because it's going to be just fine. So yeah, that's more the level that I wanted to bring that up. Notice that that is shifting it a little bit. Alrighty. Bringing up the highlights on both sides to be equivalent. And again, I'm going against the grain when I'm layering, so I'm not going with vertical stripes, I'm going with horizontal. The reason for this is to confuse the eye and to make the blends look a little nicer. Because the eye is very good, our eyes are very good at noticing patterns and things that are similar. So if we do a vertical stroke on these folds, our eyes will find it much easier to see that vertical stroke and disbelieve in any blending that we're trying to do, as opposed to doing the horizontal stroke, which will disguise the blends a little bit, disguise the brush stroke, confuse the eye, and make it less likely that the eye will notice any layering mishaps and will buy into the blend. So bringing up the edges there just to make it look pretty. Because pretty is a priority. And again, you want to use a very long, narrow brush for these brush strokes. It generally makes it easier when working with thin paint and trying to get little fine details like these little brush strokes are. If I was trying to use a thicker brush, a fatter brush like this, even though the tip is still very good, it would not be as easy to control the paint or to get the tiny little marks that I wanted. So I tell you guys the great comedy is that David is now repainting an Overwatch statue. Just like I did. Except he beat me to, my next one was going to be Tracer. But he started repainting his Tracer because I had an extra, so I gave it to him because I knew he really liked that statue. So David is now repainting a Tracer Overwatch statue. And he went a lot more hardcore than I did. He actually pried off her goggles and resculpted stuff and broke off hair and redid it and stuff like that. He's gone more crazy than I did. That he's also not going to spend like 140 hours doing leather texture like I did on Soldier. So, but I just think it's funny that he's painting an Overwatch statue now. Like, people are going to be so confused that it is you painting the Overwatch statue and not me. But you can see why I did it, like, because it's a lot of work, but it's fun. Because the model's essentially already base coated, right? Because you've got the Blizzard, Studio, simple paint job on it. I think that's why people do repaints, because they're fun, like the pop repaints and everything. A little bit of a higher highlight there just to try it out. And I can always pop it down if I want to. Alrighty, I think the pink is pretty good. Let us figure out how I'm going to use these, do these little tiny alchemical symbols, because they are tiny. Alchemical symbol is tiny. Alrighty, here we go. Yeah, there we go. So you can find all sorts of fun stuff like this, and these are some of the best things to use for magical runes and stuff. You don't have to use them precisely, but you can essentially use them as a jumping off point. Sometimes I have used them precisely if I'm actually looking to kind of do like to suggest like a particular element association like gold. But there's some cool stuff and really cool runes that you can use. So really, if you just Google alchemical symbols, they'll come up with stuff. I'm still kind of working on the idea of a celestial wizard. So I want the top row here with all the planets and the sun and the moon on it. And I will be working on from those. Or I will be doing variants on those. So I think probably in the center need to be the sun and the moon, because the first thing people are going to look for is probably the upper center. Probably sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, Venus, and then maybe Mercury, Jupiter. I may only be able to fit like one per panel. I'll have to stop and think here. Morning, lady. All right, so the sun in alchemy is a target. So there's a dark band, a light band, and a dark center. Here we are going to be doing these in gold, and so I will be mapping them in walnut, but then we're going to be using, we're kind of inverting that. And we're going to be doing light and leaving the blue in between. And this is going to involve us, this is the way you paint a ring. Also, whenever you need to do a donut or a ring or a target or concentric circles, there's really one way to do it. I think I'll do the moon here and the sun here. So I'm just going to start making a circle. And I'm going to do a crescent here. So I'll just do a little crescent symbol, just kind of a start of it. And the blue is so dark that it's a little bit hard to see, but that's all right. Because as long as I can see it a little bit, I can use it. You want a donut? I do not want a donut. I want my walk and I want lunch. And then I need to figure out when I'm going to get coffee. But yeah, it can be hard to see. Like, you guys can see the symbols better than I can at this point. They show up a little better on camera. So I'm just going to start widening this. Probably go up to this fold. So I've got a nice big round. And I kind of want to keep like equidistant from both sides. I think that's pretty good. All right, I'm gonna grab some white then. And I want to go all the way out to that edge, but leave a tiny bit of dark. And I'll start at the center and I will gradually work outward. Now I'm concentrating on keeping this round. And that's really just like looking at it, assessing it, filling it out where I need it to be filled out. If I run over my dark border, I can always go back and re-add it. It's just kind of a little bit of a pain. Mostly my concern though is in making a nice round shape at this point. And leaving a little bit of my dark rim around that if I can. You people and your donuts. I'm immune to donuts. They never taste as good as I expect them to. The only baked good that still has the power to taunt me these days is like scones, like really good scones. Or fresh baked really good like rustic bread. And sometimes a muffin will taunt me. It has to be like a really tasty apple cinnamon type muffin or something like that. One of my favorite flavors. But that's very rare. Like, I think I eat like a muffin every 2 years or something. It has to be a really masterful muffin. But scones, I make room for scones. I break for scones. Yeah, I'm not into cinnamon rolls. Too much. It's too much for me. Yeah, bread, a really good baked bread is like a really like I'm not a breadivore. David is. But it has to be, if it's really, really good bread, then I'll give in. But it has to be good bread for me to spend the carbs and calories. It has to be really well done bread. Any old bread isn't good enough. Yeah, touch up my edges a little bit. I think I dropped a little bit of my dark. And I'll go back a little bit, back and forth until I get a nice round circle. I do love custards, but those can be low carb. Like, when we go to really nice restaurants, I always beg David to order the bread, and he's like, usually no, because it's like, he's like, we don't want to fill up on bread. And I'm like, but I kind of do. Because, like, if they have, like, fresh baked bread on the menu, it's probably really, really good. There we go. So, nice round circle. That's excellent. I like that one. All right, let's try to get our moon blocked in before the end of the stream. Let me see how much of a moon we have here. The actual alchemical symbol is, yeah, it's pretty roundy. It's crescent, traditional crescent. So it does actually, it is a little bit more. I think I did the right shape actually. Now I just need to fill it in. Sun and moon. Technically, you might be able to use this dark blue as the border for your, kind of the boundary for your freehand, but I do like mapping it in with the really dark near black walnut. Up to you, though. There's our little crescent moon. It is Luca Day. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Thank you, Quindy. I would have forgotten the alpacas. We have been going over on a number of our streams this week, so I don't feel too bad about stopping a little early. But thank you. I will get this little moon etched in. And again, when you're using thinned white, you can just kind of gradually fill it in and build it up. When you thin your white, it's not going to make it chunky or anything. I go about a 2-to-1 when I'm doing this. 2-to-1 paint to water. Now I need to bring up this other horn of the moon. Well, I'm going to have to narrow it a little bit. Got a little bit chunky down there on the bottom horn of the moon. It's alpaca lunch, yeah. That's one of the things I really like about David is he doesn't do that. He doesn't go overboard. He's perfectly happy with just having a little bit of something. Which helps me to kind of tame my eating habits as well. All right, now I made it a little bit too skinny. No, back and forth. But when you're doing like runes or symbols, it is worth it to kind of sweat over making it really, like, not perfect, because, you know, perfect is an illusion, but making it as precise as possible, getting as close to your mental image as possible. Just because, you know, runes can look so nice and tight, and they can be pretty cool looking on a surface. So I always feel like it's worth putting a little extra time in adjusting the shape and getting it to the point where I'm really happy with it. Oh, good. Yeah, Reaper's really good at shipping, like, fast. I really appreciate that, because I'm dealing with other companies, like, who haven't adopted the fact that they have to keep up with Amazon. I'm always like, what are you guys doing? Do you want me to go to Amazon and order this product? Because I'll do it. But Reaper is super prompt. Like, they get it in the mail, like, that day if they can, or the next day if you put in your order later. Like, they're really, really good at shipping out within a day of receiving your order. There we go. Nice fat moon. Normally I do pawn off my leftovers on David, because I have a very specific diet that I stick to for my first 2 meals of the day, just to make sure that my guts stay in order. And then for supper I change it up, but I like to be very regimented in what I eat earlier in the day. So if there's any unpredictable leftovers, I try to pawn them off on him. So there's the start of our moon and sun, and it is 3 minutes till alpacas. Yeah, some things will disrupt the Reaper system, but usually they will get it, like, in the mail as super fast as they can, because we just want to keep moving. If we stop, we get suffocated. So in general, the internet works their butts off to get you guys stuff, like, promptly as we possibly can. Yeah, but that's exactly it. We strive to be there. Yeah, Reaper shipping is crazy good. Love to the shipping department. When you place an order, thank them for all their hard work. The internet department, because they work their tails off in that department, and they run a tight ship. So definitely send them thank yous. Reaper, actually, whenever you guys interact with our company, if you're having a good experience, send us a little note. Like, send it on the order notes, or, you know, send an email. And just tell us, you know, like, what we did that made you happy. Because Adrian saves those, and internet saved those, and we put them up, at least when I was, you know, we had a board, essentially, that all of our, like, kudos went up on. When we got somebody who contacted us to just say thanks, and to say thank you for, like, doing so well at this, like, so the whole company gets to see those, and it's a real big, you know, boost for us. So never, like, always remember to say thank you, because, you know, we get a lot of people who contact us when they have a problem, but they never contact us to say, oh, you guys are awesome. So I know you guys on stream always are saying we're awesome, but it's really cool when you can put it in a note to the company or to customer service too. Hey there, Luca. I was warned you were coming. So, you know, I guess I'll put down my pink mage and let you have your way with our audience. Quindy, you got your fist? You got your fist warmed up here? You know, ah, dear. Oh, they put them up on the wall in the hallway now? Nice. Don't tell him that. I know. I'm sorry. Luca, you're ridiculous. Episode 69. Oh my god. All right. And on that note, There it is. Quindy's got the emote lined up. We are good to go. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Tomorrow, Thursday, it's Appaloosa Centaur Day. We're back to this guy. We just put his white socks on. And they're looking pretty snaz, actually. So I think what we'll do is we'll either work more on the black hair up here, or I'll start to block in the kind of alligator skin armor on him and work on that. But I'm really happy with how the horse bits are turning out. So that's super cool. So thank you for tuning in. That's what we'll work on tomorrow. And I hope you all have a lovely day. Even Quindy, who's going to be face palming for the next hour and a while. Quindy. Have a great one, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.